Good afternoon, Congress. Could you take your seats, please? Thank you. Congress, thank you all very much for coming back prompt. We are now on session 2 of day 1. Hope you all had a very nice lunch and you all attended the fringe meetings. I have to say the service for International Workers' Memorial Day was excellent. The speakers were very good, and Pauline Rourke, our chair, did a fantastic job. So thank you for that, Pauline. Congress, we're joined on the platform by the First Minister. We will begin the session with the presentation of the 2025 Union Rep Awards. And I am absolutely delighted to welcome the First Minister to Congress, who will join us for this session. I would now like to invite Rose Foy, STUC General Secretary, to introduce the awards. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Congress. Every year since I've become your General Secretary, it's been my privilege to introduce one of the most important items of Congress business, our annual Union Rep Awards. And this year, like in every previous year, I'm acutely aware that I'm preaching to the converted about the hugely valuable role that our reps play right across our trade union movement. Becoming a workplace rep was, for myself, and I know for so many of us, the first big step from initial involvement in the trade union and branch activism towards learning how to negotiate with employers, communicate with a wide range of members, recruit members, undertake multiple other jobs that make workplaces better, and ultimately it was about making our movement stronger. And I know that that can be a thankless task. Members, understandably, are always expecting more. Employers very often want less. And whether you're on facility time or not, whatever the workplace, it can be a constant juggling act between other work expectations, your family life, some would say any life at all outside your trade union work. And those of us who've been there or even just seen it up close know that it's ultimately and in essence very much a voluntary endeavour. Even when facility time is afforded, our reps again and again and again go above and beyond the call of duty. And yet I would invite anyone who knows our movement less well than we do to come and speak to some of our workplace reps, because despite the challenges, despite the obstacles, they will tell you that it's a privilege to be part of the biggest voluntary army of people who are out there trying to make things better for their peers in their workplaces. And that's probably anywhere. So yeah, the challenges are indeed great. It remains a constant battle to correct the fundamental imbalance in power between the employer and the employed. And that's why we so desperately need that rebalancing of rights, some of which is promised in the Employment Rights Bill, and some of which can and should be delivered through Fair Work here in Scotland. And those challenges are growing. Climate change impacts every workplace in one way or another, requiring a constant rethinking and revision of our bargaining agenda. And despite significant progress, our workplaces remain plagued by inequalities, with certain types of work still occupationally gendered, and the worst of the work still falls to those with the least of the power in our society. Disabled people face routine barriers to work at the same time as successive governments have sought to starve them into jobs that don't exist, at least for them. Workers are preached at about skills gaps, automation and AI, yet the opportunities to improve their skills and take a greater collective say in how learning is provided are often denied. Workplace deaths are no lower than pre-pandemic levels, and that's the tip of the iceberg, when workplace disease, serious injury and work-induced mental health are taken into account. So in the face of these challenges, we can never remind ourselves enough of how much worse it would be in our workplaces without our workplace reps. And we do so here by celebrating the work of a few, but they would be the first to say that this is also a way to celebrate all of our workplace reps right across Scotland. And indeed, I'd ask you all to note that in the publication we distributed to you all this morning, we draw attention to other reps who were nominated this year, who in other years might well be receiving these awards for their contributions. The story of our reps is a story that needs to be told beyond Congress and our own union conferences. We need to project the pride we have in the work carried out by our trade union reps into the wider public. We continue to be grateful and pleased that our Scottish Government gets this, and that once again our First Minister is listening and willing to play his part in helping us tell our story. And what better way to start that story than by watching and hearing a film which showcases the work of this group of special reps and members. These are people who have excelled in the fields of equalities, organising, health and safety, support for learning, and in their own learning journeys. So please join me in celebrating their work.
Mark has been engaged in quite a lot of campaigns and organising within his branch. He's been driving increases in membership numbers across his branch, and he's had some really successful campaigns for things like the Harbour Masters up in Orkney Islands Council.
So I was approached by the Harbour Masters to look at their payments for antisocial hours. We had a look at it. We figured out that Orkney Islands Council, although sticking to policy, weren't treating them fairly. So we battled it out. We got them a 2.8% pay rise, backdated 3 years. And the fact that we did it and we got an action on it has increased our membership inside the harbours by 50% approximately.
It got improved PPE and improved drying facilities. And it underlines that Mark is member focused through everything that he does, and is really liked amongst his membership up in Orkney and across the north of Scotland.
I think what Mark is really skilled at is listening to the frustrations of members and then driving that forward into actions.
We had dash cams fitted to our collection vehicles for domestic waste. We found that the management were using them inappropriately, so we got a policy written to protect the drivers and the collecting crew.
I think there was a lot of concern from the members around how that data was going to be used or potentially how it might be misused.
We actually had the audio disabled inside the dash cams so that they couldn't be recorded having conversations inside the cabs,
which the members were very, very pleased about.
The work Mark did, bringing a menopause policy into Orkney Council, has made the workplace much more inclusive.
The staff can have different working places and working conditions if they have menopausal symptoms, etc.
I would like to congratulate Mark on this because it's not an easy job that he does. And he excels at it, and he's well liked by his members, he's well liked by everyone that he deals with, and he has done a brilliant job representing his members up there in Orkney.
I'm highly honoured.
He doesn't just build his membership across his branch, he genuinely builds worker power from the ground up.
Gina was nominated because of the very thoughtful and inclusive work that she's doing in the UCU branch at the University of Edinburgh to promote trans equality and to challenge hostility and prejudice.
I first got involved with the union around 2019. I already had friends who were involved in LGBT networks, and it seemed like the logical next step because it seemed like the most relevant human rights organisation, the most influential one to join. I'm part of a broader network of unions and non-union people and bodies that work together to support LGBT rights in Edinburgh and at Edinburgh University.
You know, she's got a lived experience as a trans woman, and she's been good at tackling the myths and the misconceptions that are out there about trans people, trans staff, trans students, and we're really proud of the work that she's taken forward.
I get a lot of motivation from the fact that there's an overlap, absolutely, with my own life. This is a very important time for LGBT reps across the UK and outside of the UK. This is our time to really stand up and defend LGBT rights in all kinds of ways. It can be in terms of the distressing, dehumanizing narratives that are coming out from the media, for example, or from certain politicians. We have to be here at Edinburgh University and throughout all British universities. We have to defend both the right to free speech on campus, but also the right to defend the dignity and respect of LGBT people. We're combining the importance of protest when it's needed with creating opportunities and events for LGBT people to celebrate their identities. I see this award as symbolic, powerfully symbolic, as an affirmation of LGBT people and the work that we do at Edinburgh University. So having this very powerful affirmation that trans people are seen, LGBT people are seen, and are recognised and are affirmed, I think that's very powerful for me. On top of that is the affirmation that we get from the work that we do here at Edinburgh University, of my work and the work of my colleagues in supporting trans people and LGBT people more generally.
Congratulations, Gina. We're so proud of you here in UCU. You've worked so hard, you're a great role model for trans people.
Well, my name is Sean Paul Gracie and I'm an upholsterer at City Building. I've been working here for 6 years since I left school.
So Sean came into RSBI few years ago through our schools programme. Sean went to an ESN school and he spent some time in here through that programme. He then gained employment with RSBI.
Sean's been a member of the community for about 5.5 years. He wasn't initially involved in the learning through the Scottish Union Learning, but it's been at least 3 years that he's been actively involved in the learning in the Learning Centre.
His experience of learning at school wasn't the best, so he was a wee bit apprehensive about going back into the classroom. However, he quickly learned that the learning that we do at RSBI is a wee bit different from what you do at school.
The courses that we deliver through RSBI, through Scottish Union Learning and through the Multiply funding are literacy and numeracy courses.
So Sean started doing maths anxiety with us, that was 2 years ago through the Multiply funding, and also he done literacies with the Scottish Union Learning Fund.
In school, the teachers, obviously everyone's got different learning needs in that. In school you couldn't really get that, but in here, Stephen, he can adapt to you, and once you get to know him, he's a really great guy.
So like a lot of other guys in the factory, it's adjustments have got to be made to the learning. And that sometimes it's just about tailoring it to individuals. When he was doing his numeracy for manufacturing, you're looking at how number systems are involved in, you know, building an architect's drawings. And our first talking about doing design briefs was we just got a bucket of Lego out, and then it was build something with a Lego and produce instructions for it. So
he's went from not only learning the skills that he needs in day-to-day life and budgeting and things like that, he's went from that to being able to apply those skills in his job that he does, which benefits the employer as well.
We recognise as an employer that the benefits this brings to our workforce and how they contribute to our outcomes as an organisation. But we also recognise the benefits of education, training, upskilling brings for an individual's social mobility.
I know that his peers have all noticed the difference in him and the effect and the impact it's had on him doing this learning. It's brilliant to see and he should be really proud of himself.
I would say we are so proud of you. You know, keep in there, keep doing what you're doing. You've got our support. You know, you've got the trade union support.
Sean, you've worked really hard, about 4 or 5 courses you've done now, and I just want to say congratulations and well done on the hard work.
It was a nice surprise, it was, because obviously I've always thought that my disability always held me back and that stuff, and then I found out about this, and then I've kind of went, my disability doesn't define me now.
My name is Nuala Ash and I'm a Regional Learning Organiser for Unite the Union. I nominated Stephen because he's used his lived experiences of dyslexic thinking to champion inclusive learning within Stagecoach, Unite the Union and beyond.
I've always been quite passionate about volunteering, sharing my knowledge with being dyslexic and just making sure that people have access to learning. So as a union learning rep, I help our fellow reps to get their training organised and get them sorted into training, and any support that any other drivers or members of staff need. The type of training I've done or organised is getting people with a better understanding of what learning needs they need, as well as helping educate people on what neurodiversity is, what dyslexia is, and how that can affect people in a day-to-day life.
I wasn't anyone that was actually doing the dyslexia for Aberdeen. He stepped in partnership with Unite the Union in Aberdeen, and now we are actually training people with dyslexia. It was a stigma years ago. We're breaking down the stigma, and it's helping people now to go back and say, well, now I can learn.
I've spoken quite openly about dyslexia, and if they have questions, they come to me.
The impact that Stephen has had within the union is to make us more aware of neurodiversity within Learn with Unite, within Unite Education. He has helped some of our tutors with supports within the classroom environment.
With me being open about it, it's showing that people can open up and say, I've got issues, I've got dyslexia, I've got whatever neurodiversity they have.
It's a great achievement for him, especially with dyslexia, and getting it on the map again, that it's not a stigma anymore. And it's not a barrier for training.
You can be open to your company about it, you can discuss it, and there is help and support there. To be nominated or even consider to be nominated for it is unique. It's showing that I'm going down the right path. I'm getting recognised for being open and being me.
Congratulations, Stephen. Keep on doing what you're doing.
I've known Jean and Fiona 15, 20 years, great reps. They've been part of our health and safety committee for the last 15 years.
Because of the relationship that I have with the university, that is why we're a lot better than most with HSE.
The health and safety executive tend to regulate more often within the higher education sector. When they come on site, Fiona and Jean have always been alerted to that by the local HSE inspector. More importantly, getting notified of the outcomes of those regulatory inspections by the HSEs, and they're able to influence the employers, not just their health and safety policy, all the procedures that affect the health, safety and wellbeing of our members across, not just across St Andrews, across the HE sector, which is fantastic.
We go as far up as the principal's office. So we're in from the bottom, from the worker's point of view, all the way up. It doesn't just stop at the people within Unison, it still goes up higher.
Jean and Fiona have used our annual violence survey to pick that up with the Corporate Safety Committee at St Andrews, and this has led partly for the university to look at gender-based violence, so they're reviewing their policies and procedures, and Jean and Fiona have fed into that.
We have regular meetings based on gender-based violence. We have a gender-based violence policy that was set up that we were involved in.
I think the other strength of Jean and Fiona is their knowledge of the legislation, the Safety Reps and Safety Committees regulations, Health and Safety at Work Act, Management of Health and Safety at Work regulations. They've used those regulations in a number of different areas.
She is great. She is fantastic. I've never met anybody in all the years and all the roles that everybody's had through the years, and none of them have been a patch on Fiona. She's like me. She tells it like it is.
It's been great working with Jean, but yeah, like I said, Jean will help anybody out. She really would.
Hopefully we'll get more reps and we can only get better. Because health and safety will never, ever go away.
I'm absolutely shocked getting this, to be honest. It's nice as well to get the recognition.
I would never in a million years thought I was worthy of this.
We're all at Unison extremely proud of you, and just to say to Jean, we know you retire at the end of April. Well done in your retirement, absolutely earned it, and all the best going forward.
And now I'd like to invite our First Minister John Swinney to join us centre stage to present the awards to this year's recipients. Firstly, we have the STUC Equality Award, which goes to Gina Gwenfrui from UCU Scotland. And next up, we have the STUC Organising Award, which goes to Mark Vincent from GMB Scotland. And then we have the Frank Maguire Award for Health and Safety, which goes to Jean Pickering and Fiona MacDonald from Unison Scotland. And next we have the Learner of the Year Award, which goes to John Paul Gracie from Community. And finally, Congress, we have the Helen Dowie Award for Lifelong Learning, which goes to Stephen Black from Unite. Well done to all of you.
Thanks very much, Ros and First Minister, for presenting those awards. I'm sure we'll all agree, very worthy winners, recipients of those awards. That is fundamental to our movement, activists in workplaces, making a difference to working people across Scotland. Well done to our winners. Delegates will now move on to the First Minister's address to Congress. John, I'm very pleased to invite you to Congress. It does say John in my script, that's why I'm calling you John. Not that we're familiar. You're very welcome to address Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, President, and good afternoon. It's an enormous pleasure for me to be with you at the Caird Hall today, to have the opportunity to address the STUC Congress, and particularly to be able to do that for the first time as First Minister on International Workers' Day. And I recognise the significance of this day to the trade union movement, and the enormous opportunity it is for me to be with you on this occasion. It's a pleasure to join you in the city of Dundee, a city that has faced and is facing the challenges of economic change and economic challenge, but doing so based on the strength of its people and the strength of the community that makes up this city. And as I look back over the way in which Dundee has responded to the economic change of the last 40 years, I see a city, yes, that has faced enormous difficulties and challenge, but a city that has demonstrated formidable resolve. And part of that resolve has been based on the strength of the trade union movement here in the city of Dundee, acting to protect the wider economic and social interests of the members of trade unions and the community within the city of Dundee. And as a parliamentary representative for a constituency that just adjoins the city of Dundee, I've watched the way in which this city, and played my part in helping in that journey, to recover from economic difficulty and economic challenge. And as we look around the city today, we see a number of those examples of how the city is responding to that challenge, whether that's the establishment of the really good work that's been undertaken across a range of different organisations to repurpose the Michelin plant out in the east side of the city to make sure that it's a hive of entrepreneurial and innovative research activity, developing new processes and new opportunities with the new technologies, or whether that's the transformation of the city by the waterfront development and the creation of the V&A, or the location by the government of Social Security Scotland, bringing important public sector employment right here to the heart of the city of Dundee, or the stimulus that has been given to the economy by the development of the games industry over many years, with the utilisation of so much of the technological strength that comes from the University of Abertay and the University of Dundee. So Dundee has been an example of a city that, yes, has faced economic challenge and economic transformation, but one that has rallied to those challenges, led by the constructive intervention of the trade union movement. Now, the city faces its challenges again just now, with enormous uncertainty facing members of the University and Colleges Union and members of other unions who are employed at the University of Dundee. And I recognise the significant unease and anxiety that there will be within the employees of the University of Dundee. But let me take this opportunity, right at the heart of the city and at the STUC Congress, to make it crystal clear that the Scottish Government recognises the economic significance of the University of Dundee to this city and to Scotland, the enormous academic and technical strength of the university, recognise the enormous connection between the university and our health service through the important research work undertaken on life sciences. And what the Scottish Government is doing at the present moment, and we are working very assertively on all of this, is making sure that the Scottish Funding Council and the University of Dundee are working together to develop a plan that will protect and secure the future of the University of Dundee, because we need to make that happen for the staff, for the students and for the community of Dundee, and I give you that solemn pledge that government will make sure that that is the focus of all we do to protect the University of Dundee. As part of that work, we need to rely upon the engagement of all the employees within the university, and the Strategic Advisory Task Force that we've established under the leadership of Sir Alan Langlands is determined to bring together the work of the city, the university, the government and our various organisations with the staff and the workforce to make sure that the University of Dundee is able to secure its future in the years to come. And I'm optimistic that we will be able to chart a course for the university that will secure that future and give the necessary confidence to this city that it deserves and requires. So, as part of all of that, we rely upon the engagement of trade union representatives to support us in taking forward the agenda that addresses the difficulties that we face. And I want to thank this Congress and the Scottish Trade Union Movement for your unwavering commitment to ensure that the voice of workers is heard within policy making in Scotland, and to commend the work that you take forward in advancing and protecting workers' rights, fighting for better pay, fighting for safer workplaces, as we've just acknowledged in the STUC awards. And through your efforts, the voices of Scotland's workers are shaping policy, informing the development of policy and challenging injustice within our society. I want to thank all of you for bringing your ideas and your energy and your initiative to this movement, and also to express my sincere thanks to the award winners today, Fiona and Jean, Stephen, Gina and Sean Paul, who embody that spirit of acting on behalf of the interests of workers and to ensure that the voice of workers shapes and influences the way in which we take forward policy in our country. Now, while we may not always agree, and I've obviously been involved in a number of discussions where we might not be on the same wavelength on certain questions, and certainly perhaps not on all questions of pay and policy, I want to say to Congress that I deeply value the partnership that exists between the Scottish Government and the Scottish Trade Union Congress. And I deeply value the engagement that takes place on an ongoing basis between our two organisations. We meet between the Government and the STUC and its member unions twice a year to formally take stock of the issues that we are facing in the economy and to take stock of some of the challenges that we all face up to. And one of the recent issues that has dominated our thinking has been the pressure that is on all of us from the rise of far-right ideologies and the threat that they pose to Scotland's democracy, our communities and the values that we hold dear. And I understand it's a debate that you had at Congress this morning. I consider it to be absolutely vital that we remain united against extremism in all of its forms in our society today. And last week's gathering of political and civic leaders, including the STUC, was a powerful display of this unity and the necessity of taking action to protect the democratic values of our society. So I want to thank the STUC for the leadership that you're showing on this issue. You were the first organisation to welcome my announcement of a civic gathering to bring people together, and your contribution is so important and valued. But in addition to my thanks, I need to also accept at the outset the obligation on me and the challenge on me from the STUC that my government must play its part in taking the necessary social and economic action to ensure that we address and deliver answers to the sentiments that allow the far right to gain ground. And that's a challenge that you fairly put to me, and it's a challenge that I accept. Because in our society today we face sophisticated campaigns of misinformation designed to exploit the genuine economic and social concerns of working people. And the government has got a responsibility to deliver answers and solutions to those economic and social concerns within our society. and the trade union movement can play a part in ensuring that it is able to contribute to confronting those forces of misinformation, not only in our workplaces, but also in our communities. And of course, that will also involve a range of challenging conversations in grassroots organisation. It will mean standing up for truth. It will mean standing up for solidarity where it matters most in our communities. And I appreciate the work that is undertaken by trades councils the length and breadth of the country that support action on community cohesion, that work to welcome refugees and asylum seekers into our population, that try to prevent the circumstances upon which division can be sowed or where intolerance and prejudice may be able to thrive. So all of us, in all of our movements, if we cherish and value the significance of the cohesion of our communities, need to work together to make sure that those values are reflected in the decisions that we take and the actions that we bring forward. And I recognise that obligation of leadership on the government and on me as First Minister to ensure that is the case. And I invite you to work with me to ensure that Scotland is a country that will be able, in the years to come, to say that we successfully resisted the far-right ideologies that are spreading increasingly around the world, and that we acted to protect the democratic characteristics and the democratic values that have served Scotland well and have got our society to where it is today. The STUC has always been, in part of that work, a crucial voice in promoting equality across Scottish society, in and out of the workplace. Your advocacy for Scotland's LGBT community has been vital in driving the progress that we have made as a country. Let me take this opportunity to reaffirm my government's commitment to LGBT rights, and specifically the rights of trans men and trans women in our society. I know that for trans people, there will be feelings of enormous uncertainty and anxiety at this moment in time, but I'm determined to fulfil my obligation, which I took on when I became First Minister, that I will act as First Minister to protect the rights of everyone in Scotland today. And that includes workers. Building on the New Deal for workers is a powerful theme to rally behind at this Congress, and it's why my government welcomes the UK Government's Employment Rights Bill. The bill and the broader Make Work Pay programme align closely with the Fair Work agenda that's been taken forward by the Scottish Government. It reflects the approach that's been jointly formulated by the Scottish Trade Union Congress and the Scottish Government, as we have worked together through the Fair Work Convention in Scotland to advance the concept of fair work within the limitations and the restrictions of the powers that we have within the Scottish Government. And it has the potential, as a bill, to finally help us to put some of the progress that we have made in Scotland on a voluntary and a collaborative basis onto a statutory footing, which will of course enable us to resist any challenges to that agenda that may come from any governments in the future. I believe that we have been effective in using the space and the scope for joint collaboration between the Scottish Government and the STUC to advance many of these issues. And I look forward to cementing much of that activity in the period to come as we look to implement the Employment Rights Bill and its legislation, and to make sure it is reflected in the policy priorities that are taken forward by the Scottish Government. And we will continue to work closely with the STUC and other partners to ensure that the bill delivers for Scotland's workers, and that it safeguards the principles of fair work that we have worked so hard to try to create in the relationship that we've taken forward in recent years. Now, as we focus on fairness here at home, we cannot ignore the global forces that shape our world and challenge the circumstances that we are experiencing. The conflicts in Ukraine and in Gaza remain of enormous concern and significance to all of us who care about peace and reconciliation in our world. The courage and the determination of the Ukrainian people in defending their homeland and upholding democracy, freedom and human dignity has been an inspiration to us all. And we support the protection of Ukraine as a sovereign and independent country, and we remain committed to helping the refugees that have come to Scotland to make their contribution to our society. And we share the deep concern of the trade union movement about the events in Gaza in the aftermath of the terrorist attacks by Hamas, unforgivable terrorist attacks by Hamas. But the events in Gaza and the suffering that is being experienced by the people of Palestine cannot be in any way, shape or form acceptable in the modern world. So I take this opportunity to reaffirm the absolute determination of the Scottish Government to work with all interested parties to bring about a permanent and lasting ceasefire in the Middle East, to design an approach which is the only way to guarantee peace in the Middle East, and that is by a two-state solution that recognises the sovereignty and the independence of a Palestinian state, and that will be at the heart of our quest for justice on the international agenda. We must resist all efforts to make the conflict in Gaza go on 1 minute longer than it has gone on today. We must ensure that peace is achieved and that peace is delivered for the people of Palestine. Although we face enormous challenges with the far-right ideology and the effect of the global uncertainty from war and conflict, we also face enormous uncertainty as a consequence of the global economic environment, which has changed so dramatically in the course of the last few weeks, with the debate and the decisions been made by the United States administration around tariffs and the effect that that has had on stability in the global economic context. And we have to respond to that, and we have to respond to that by making sure that we support the community in Scotland to come together to make sure that we use every power at our disposal to create the most dynamic economic agenda we can to improve the lives of people in our country. We have to have in place the measures and the steps that will give economic and social hope to people in our country. We have to acknowledge the severe hardship that people have faced as a consequence of the pressures arising out of the financial crash in 2008, the advent of austerity, the disruption and the damage of COVID, and the effect of inflation arising out of the invasion of Ukraine. All of these factors have come together to create huge economic stress that translates into real difficulty in the lives and the circumstances that your members will face around the country. And I'm aware of that as First Minister. But what I want to do is to make sure we construct a policy agenda that does all that we possibly can do within the powers and the responsibilities that we have to address those root circumstances that are causing such difficulty to people in our communities. That means giving families a better chance of paying their bills. It means investing in health and social care. It means ensuring that young people can access employment and mental health support. It means building climate-resilient communities and addressing the housing emergency that we face in Scotland today. So those are the priorities that lie right at the heart of my government's agenda, which is about eradicating child poverty, growing the economy, tackling the climate emergency, and ensuring that we have high quality and sustainable public services within Scotland today. And those elements will feature in the programme for government that I set out to Parliament on the 6th of May, a programme that I've brought forward to give us the maximum opportunity to ensure that we deliver as much an effect as we can through the powers and responsibilities and the spending power that we have in the Scottish Government to improve the lives of individuals so that people are facing less financial strain that they have been facing, that they see investment in their public services, that they see investment in the crucial public estate of our country to ensure that they have good prospects in the years to come. And that involves investing in new elements of our economy. It means investing in renewable energy. It means investing in the skills that will be required to realise those enormous opportunities for our country. It means investing in some of the key elements of the economy that will create higher value employment and enable us to retain more of that value here within Scotland. It means working collaboratively to ensure that our public services are effective, that they are sustainable, that we maximise the utilisation of the resources that we have at our disposal to make as much of an impact as we can on the challenges that individuals face in our society. So the agenda of the government is going to be focused relentlessly on eradicating child poverty, on growing the economy, of making sure that we make the transition to net zero and that we invest in our public services. And the budget that was passed by Parliament in February of this year, I think gives us that foundation to enable us to achieve those objectives by taking forward measures, for example, to lift the two-child limit, to lift more children out of poverty than we are already doing through the actions on the Scottish Child Payment, or ensuring that we invest in the skills and training opportunities that are required to be the foundation for economic growth, or that we take forward the investment mechanisms that are required in the offshore energy sector, and that we make sure that in all areas of our public services we are investing to ensure our services continue to meet the demands, the changing demands of the population as part of our approach to investment in the Scottish economy and our public services. So that will be at the very heart of our agenda, and that's an agenda that has been significantly influenced by the contributions and the dialogue with the Scottish Trade Union Congress, and I give you the assurance that that will continue in the years to come. Now, trade unions have a very wide role to play in our society, and that has been no more visible than on any other issue than the future of the Grangemouth refinery. And I want to express from this podium my thanks to Unite the Union for the sustained engagement we have had about trying to find a way forward that protects the future of the workers at the Grangemouth refinery. It is no secret that I believe the refinery has been closed prematurely, that we needed to take a course that would have secured the future for the refinery. But what I want to assure you about today is that my government will be absolutely focused on working with the trade unions and with interested parties to ensure that the Grangemouth refinery and the various businesses at Grangemouth receive the support and the engagement of the Scottish Government to find a way forward that protects the skills and the employment that exist within that important resource. I want all options for Grangemouth's future to be explored, and I'll ensure that my government will work constructively with all partners to secure a just transition for Grangemouth, with the workforce very much at the heart of that endeavour. And I want to make clear today the fact that as a consequence of all of this volatility that we are experiencing in the international environment, there is an ever more pressing need for there to be a greater focus on industrial intervention within Scotland and within our industry. We are facing global uncertainty without precedent, and the action that the United Kingdom government took in Scunthorpe in the course of the last few weeks is a commendable example of the type of intervention we have to be prepared to make in this context. But we must be prepared to do it on a wider scale than has been experienced up until now. So the assurance I give you today is that the Scottish Government will be willing to work with the United Kingdom Government to take the necessary steps to intervene in our industrial base, to secure the sustainability of that industrial base, because we cannot allow the industrial base of our country to be hollowed out. We need to secure our industrial base for the security and the future of our country.